I remember the scent of rosemary and baked apples drifting through my modest kitchen that late afternoon, mere hours before my life would change forever. It was the time of day I cherished most, when the sun, lazy and golden, stretched its light across my countertops and warmed the old porcelain teapot sitting by the window. There I stood in my faded apron, stirring a pot of applesauce for the grandchildren who would soon arrive. My world then was small, infinitely precious, defined by love rather than grandeur. I felt fulfilled in my humble house, on my quiet street, in a small town whose name rarely graced any headlines. I was Clara Dawson, grandmother, widow, devout soul, content with a simple life. The grandchildren, there were 4 of them, would tumble in soon, tracking bits of grass and leaves from the yard, their laughter filling the hall. I had learned to accept the scuffs on the floor and the occasional broken mug as part of the tapestry of love that wove through my existence. Outside, the world hummed along as it always had. Bees danced over my little garden, cars passed intermittently on the distant county road, and a soft breeze rippled through the curtains. I set out plates on the table, each decorated with faded floral patterns. The clock on the wall announced the late afternoon hour with a gentle tick. My heart was at peace. Little did I know that it was also on the brink of sudden failure. The children arrived just as expected, and their mother, my daughter Anna, exchanged a few words with me at the door before heading off to run errands. I guided the little ones to the kitchen, encouraging them to wash their hands. They were hungry, eyes bright, cheeks flushed from their play. I remember feeling a faint tightness in my chest as I bent down to pick up a napkin that had fluttered to the floor. I ignored it initially. It seemed so inconsequential. We laughed together as I served the applesauce. I can still recall the delight in their voices, the small spoons clinking against the bowls. I didn't think much of the discomfort at first. I had lived nearly 8 decades after all, and a passing twinge was hardly unusual. Yet as I stood near the sink, watching them enjoy their snack, that dull ache intensified. It turned into a pressure I could neither ignore nor push through. I tried leaning against the counter, taking a deeper breath, but it only became worse, like an iron band tightening around my ribs. A wave of confusion and fear rushed over me. "Are you all right, Grandma?" Little Beth asked, her voice suddenly small and concerned. My vision began to blur. I tried to answer, but my words came out garbled, slurring into nonsense. My heart pounded too hard and too fast. I recall the wooden spoon slipping from my hand and clattering on the floor. The children's eyes widened in alarm. The light in the kitchen seemed to flicker. My knees gave way, and I remember sinking down. I tried desperately to call out to them, to reassure them, but all that emerged was a strained gasp. In that awful, suspended moment, I felt my heart seize. An unbearable weight pressed on my chest. Then there was a tearing sensation, both within and all around me. The kitchen, the children's cries, the scent of apples, all slipped away. A profound silence replaced the chaos of my failing body. I recall feeling as though I had passed through a thin veil into another dimension of reality. There was no more pain, only a hush so deep, it was almost a sound unto itself. The next thing I knew, I was looking down at the scene from above, as though perched near the ceiling. I saw my body crumpled on the floor, my face slack, eyes closed, and the children frantically tugging at my sleeve. It was heartbreaking to watch them panic, to see their tears. I wanted to comfort them, but found myself powerless. I tried to reach out, but I had no arms in this strange state. I was weightless, formless, a silent observer. The boundaries of my old life were dissolving. Slowly, gently, I felt myself drifting away from that kitchen, from the sorrow I was leaving behind. My grandchildren ran to the phone, struggling with frightened calls for help. I wanted to tell them not to be afraid, that I was safe somehow. But my voice did not carry. I hovered for a time, suspended between their world and another. I was aware of the mortal drama unfolding below, paramedics arriving, the rush of frantic voices, and the urgency in their actions. But I began to feel drawn elsewhere. A soft light emerged at the periphery of my vision, growing steadily brighter. Not harsh, not dazzling, but warm, nurturing, enveloping. I felt it before I truly saw it. It was a presence, a glowing current of love and understanding. It drew me forward without effort, as if an invisible tide carried me along. The world of the hospital stretcher and the shouting medics began to fade. My sorrow over leaving my grandchildren ebbed into a curious peace. The further I drifted, the more I felt a calm assurance that all was as it should be. At some point, I ceased to see the earthly realm altogether. Instead, I found myself in a vast, radiant expanse. The light here was alive. It had hues I cannot name, warmth without heat, and layers of depth that reminded me of the sun dancing on water. I felt this light pass through me like a gentle breeze, sweeping away fear, confusion, and regret, leaving me pure and open. I knew I was in the presence of the divine, though words fall short of describing this understanding. There was knowledge in the air, compassion in every beam, and I sensed that I was beloved beyond measure. Then I saw him. Jesus stood before me, or perhaps I was simply aware of his presence in a manner more intimate and complete than eyesight allows. He appeared in a form I would recognize, a soft-featured face, kind eyes filled with infinite compassion, wearing robes of gentle white that shimmered with inner radiance. Yet simultaneously, he was more than just a figure. He was a boundless love, the source of comfort that soothed my fearful heart. His gaze met mine, and in that moment I knew he understood everything about me. My joys, my struggles, my faith, my failings, the small life I had led in that quiet town. Nothing was hidden from him, and he welcomed me with profound gentleness. "Clara," he said, and the sound of my name from his lips was like a melody I had long forgotten. There was recognition, warmth, and a subtle gravity that told me this meeting was not by chance. I did not feel judged. Instead, I felt cherished. I instinctively tried to bow my head, to show reverence. But in this realm, gestures carry different meanings. I simply let my soul shine with gratitude, and I felt Jesus acknowledge my humility with a soft smile. "My child," he continued, "I know your heart. I know how you have loved, how you have prayed in small whispers, how you cared for your grandchildren and tended your garden with reverence. Your life has been a quiet hymn. Do not fear. I have brought you here not to end your journey, but to show you something you must share." His voice resonated through me, a gentle certainty that calmed any lingering confusion. He extended his hand, and although I had no physical form as I once did, I understood the gesture. I moved closer, guided by trust. Then, he began to reveal a series of visions, scenes that shimmered before us like tapestries woven of light and memory and possibility. The first visions were of my own world as I knew it. People going about their daily lives, the grocery store clerk helping a customer, children playing in a schoolyard, farmers tending crops, doctors healing the sick. Simple acts of goodness unfolded one after another. I saw how each gesture of kindness created ripples of compassion, and my heart swelled with hope. Jesus let me savor these small wonders before guiding me onward. "Clara," he said, "humanity stands at a crossroads. The gifts I have allowed them to discover, technology, knowledge, resources beyond what previous generations could have dreamed. These can shape a beautiful future of unity, stewardship, and reverence. But these same gifts, if wielded without love, can also lead to great suffering and spiritual desolation." At this, the vision shifted. I saw skyscrapers piercing a sky thick with smog, silent neighborhoods lit only by the glow of artificial screens. I saw people isolated in their homes, their eyes hollow, their hearts distant from each other. I glimpsed machines working tirelessly, while human souls drifted into apathy. It was a chilling contrast to the warmth I knew could exist in the human family. Then a familiar face emerged in the shifting scene. I recognized him from newspapers, television broadcasts, and the chatter that passed through my granddaughter's smartphone. Elon Musk, this visionary entrepreneur, inventor, and dreamer. He stood amidst a crowd in one moment, and in another, in front of sleek machines and humming factories. I saw him launch rockets toward the heavens, saw his teams building magnificent starships, forging a path to other planets. I saw Tesla cars glide silently along roads beneath solar-lit streets. There were smiles of awe and delight from people who benefited from cleaner energy, from advances that pushed the frontier of what humanity thought possible. Jesus turned his compassionate gaze upon me. "You recognize him, my child," he said gently. "This man, Elon Musk, is but one figure among many, yet he carries a special weight of influence. He leads humanity's eyes upward, toward other worlds, and inward, toward new technologies that challenge old limits. I want you to understand that the future depends not solely on him, but he stands as a symbol. He will help guide humanity's direction, either toward a deeper harmony with my creation, or toward a future estranged from spiritual truth." As Jesus spoke, more visions unfurled. In one, I watched Elon Musk, older than he is now, addressing a global assembly. The world hung on his words. Humanity had colonized Mars. There it was, a red desert turning green with carefully engineered plants, domed cities shimmering under an alien sky. People there explored their new home with curiosity and ingenuity, building outposts and laboratories. Yet what struck me most was their spiritual posture. In some versions of the vision, these pioneers gathered in small circles to pray, thanking the Creator for granting them the intellect and courage to venture so far. They contemplated the stars and felt awe, recognizing they were part of a divine tapestry. They cooperated, supported one another, and remembered that love transcended planetary boundaries. In another version, however, I saw a very different Mars. Here, settlers had grown proud and distant. They scoffed at the notion of a creator, elevating their own engineering marvels to a place of worship. They celebrated their independence from Earth, and with it, their independence from any higher moral order. Screens replaced scripture. Efficiency replaced empathy. The settlers there achieved remarkable feats, terraforming lands, synthesizing new materials. But each achievement rang hollow. Without humility and gratitude, their technological wonders were no more than monuments to their own vanity. They lived in comfort but spiritual emptiness, drifting further from the love that brought me now into the presence of Jesus. I felt tears well up within me, though in that realm tears were more an expression of my soul's ache. "Lord," I whispered, "why must it be so uncertain? How can humanity choose rightly when temptation is so strong?" Jesus regarded me with an understanding gaze. Clara, free will is my gift. I do not force love or humility upon anyone. Mankind must choose to seek me, to remember that all knowledge and ability are blessings to be used for good. Elon Musk and others like him, leaders, innovators, scientists, bear a heavy responsibility. They shape the world's narrative. They open doors to futures that can bless or curse humanity. Yet they are human, susceptible to pride and error. This is why I ask you to pray for them, to encourage others to do the same, so that my grace may guide their hearts. The visions moved like swirling constellations. I saw laboratories where scientists tinkered with the building blocks of life. Genes spliced, new organisms engineered. In some scenarios, their work healed diseases, ended suffering, and allowed once crippled children to run free under the sunlight. In these versions, I sensed prayers rising alongside research, reverence woven into every discovery. The scientists bowed their heads, acknowledging their role as stewards, not masters of creation. Their breakthroughs were blessings. In darker versions, I saw these laboratories become temples of hubris. Life forms were engineered without respect for their inherent sanctity. Profit and power, rather than healing and compassion, motivated these experiments. I sensed the emptiness of a world forgetting its maker, forging ahead into territory they treated like clay for their own sculptures, without ever thanking the potter who formed all life. Jesus' voice came softly. They must remember that I wove the DNA of life with intention and love. To play with my design without humility leads them astray. Another scene. Politicians in grand halls, CEOs in boardrooms, spiritual leaders on stages. Some shone with integrity, using their influence to protect the environment, to uplift the poor, to inspire unity. They prayed quietly before making decisions. They knelt in the dark of the night asking for guidance, and though the world might never know of their prayers, heaven did. Others, however, reveled in their power, their wealth, and their ability to shape laws and markets to their advantage. Their hearts were hardened by greed. They claimed credit for miracles that belonged to God. They distorted truth to maintain control. Jesus' sigh was gentle but heavy with concern. Leadership is stewardship, he said. Those who lead must account for every choice that affects countless souls. Some understand this and serve with humility. Others succumb to pride. Their testing is great, and so must be your prayers for them. As these visions wove through my consciousness, I began to understand the gravity of what I was witnessing. This was not about one man, one era, or one innovation. It was about the eternal crossroads at which humanity stands, now more pronounced than ever because of the immense tools at their disposal. Technology is neither good nor evil, Jesus said. It is a chisel in human hands. With it, people can carve a masterpiece that reflects divine beauty or a grotesque idol that reflects only their fallen pride. Then Jesus showed me a profound dichotomy. On one side, a world humming with clean energy, families prospering under a just economic system, neighbors caring for each other, communities revitalizing nature, and astronauts singing hymns of praise as they orbit far-flung worlds. Technology and faith intertwined harmoniously, leading humanity into greater awe of the Creator. On the other side, I saw a world where AI determined daily life's smallest details, what people should believe, whom they should love, and when they should think. Humans relinquished their moral compass to algorithms. They became spectators, no longer creators guided by a higher morality. The result was a hollow, efficient machine of a civilization with no soul. These contrasts weighed heavily on my heart. I felt overwhelmed, I was just an old grandmother who had loved her garden and her grandchildren. How could I shoulder this knowledge and carry it back to the world? Sensing my turmoil, Jesus placed a reassuring hand upon me, though it was more a sensation of support and understanding than a physical touch. "Clara," he said, his voice soothing my anxieties, "I chose you not because you wield great power on earth, but because you know the power of prayer, humility, and love. You understand the sacredness of life in every quiet moment. I want you to bring this testimony back. Tell others to pray for Elon Musk and for all leaders. Tell them that no one, no matter how brilliant or influential, is beyond my guidance and compassion. Remind them that humanity can always turn back to me. Redemption and realignment are always possible." My heart swelled with purpose and dread in equal measure. I knew my time in this radiant realm was drawing to a close. The great tapestry of visions began to fade, and I felt a gentle tug, as though gravity were calling me back. Before I slipped away, Jesus spoke again. "Technology must serve love, not replace it. Knowledge must serve wisdom, not supplant it. Creation must always remember the Creator. Pray without ceasing. Teach others to do the same." I wanted to stay, to bask forever in that love, but I also knew I had a mission. In that final moment, Jesus smiled, a smile that contained galaxies of compassion, and then I fell through. Layers of warm light and silence. The next thing I knew, I felt something heavy pressing on my chest. I heard frantic voices, beeping machines, and a bright electric glare that could never be confused with that heavenly radiance. My eyes fluttered open. I was lying in a hospital bed, an oxygen mask over my face, doctors and nurses hovering nearby. One nurse gasped, "She's back!" as if she had witnessed a miracle. I blinked, disoriented, and my heart still resonated with the profound truths I had just been shown. I felt tears streaming down my cheeks. The hospital room, sterile, humming with machinery, felt small and cold compared to the realm I had just left. Yet I also knew that I carried a light within me now, a charge of purpose that would guide me forward. My grandchildren rushed in as soon as the doctors allowed. Their eyes were red from crying. They clung to my hands, whispered their relief and love. I smiled, weak but determined. I had returned to them, and I now understood that my life, however ordinary it might seem, held extraordinary potential. I held within me a message that needed to be shared. Over the following weeks, I recovered slowly. I practiced walking the hospital corridors with the help of a physical therapist, all the while formulating how I would speak of what I had experienced. I knew some might doubt me. Some would say it was the hallucination of a dying mind. Others might shrug and remain indifferent. But I also knew that there would be hearts ready to hear, souls hungry for guidance. I needed to be gentle and truthful, trusting the Spirit to guide my words. When I finally returned home, my daughter and grandchildren helped me settle in. I looked around my kitchen, the place where I had last stood before. My heart stopped. The light of a late afternoon again filtered through the window, touching the old teapot and the faded curtains. The world looked the same, yet I knew it was different. I knew I was different. I began to share my story first with my family. I told them about drifting above my body, about the radiant realm and my encounter with Jesus. I described the visions of potential futures for humanity, how technology and faith must coexist, how leaders like Elon Musk have enormous responsibilities, and how all of us must pray fervently for guidance. My daughter listened, tears in her eyes. She had known my faith all her life, but never had I spoken with such intensity. My grandchildren, once old enough to understand, asked curious questions. I did my best to answer, always emphasizing that I carried no condemnation in my heart, only the urgent message that we must not forget who made us, who gave us the gifts we wield. In time, I expanded my audience. I wrote letters to local church groups, telling them about the importance of praying for those who shape our world. I wrote a message addressed to Elon Musk himself, though I had no expectation he would ever read it, reminding him that his intelligence, creativity, and ambition were blessings that came with a duty to serve humanity's highest good. I prayed for him daily, asking God to guide his decisions so that they would lead to a future bright with spiritual and moral integrity. I tried to paint the picture as clearly as I could. We stand at a threshold. The powers at our disposal, energy sources, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, space travel, are not inherently evil, but they demand wisdom. If we step forward in prayer, humility, and reverence for the Creator, these tools can help us heal the world, connect with each other more deeply, and even spread life to distant planets while carrying the banner of God's love. But if we abandon our moral compass, if we let pride guide us, these same tools can become chains that bind our hearts and make us forget who we truly are, children of God. Some people listened earnestly, others were skeptical. Still others found hope in my words. I learned that my role was not to convince everyone, but to share, to let the Spirit do the rest. Jesus had entrusted me with a message, and I would not fail him by remaining silent. I saw small changes over time. My family began praying daily for world leaders and innovators. In church, we added special intentions for scientists and entrepreneurs who shape the course of civilization. Some members of the congregation started to talk about technology in a new light, neither demonizing it nor worshiping it, but holding it accountable to moral truth. As I grew older and frailer, I knew my days were limited. Yet I no longer feared death. How could I, after what I had experienced? I knew that someday I would return to that realm of golden light, stand again before Jesus, and account for how I carried his message. My body might be weak, but my spirit was strong with purpose. I would sometimes sit quietly in my garden, watching the bees dance over the flowers, remembering the visions. I considered how fragile and precious life is. Each decision we make collectively, whether to cherish or exploit the natural world, whether to lift each other up or step on one another, whether to honor the Creator or turn away, matters immensely. The extraordinary complexity of our world, our technology, and our collective fate is not a tangled mess, but a tapestry being woven one thread at a time. And prayer is the needle that can guide those threads toward a pattern of love and respect. I thought often of Elon Musk. I prayed that he would feel the gentle tug of divine wisdom in his heart, that he would never lose sight of what truly makes humanity great, not the rockets or the AI models, but the love, compassion, and humility that allow those achievements to bring us closer to each other and to God. In my mind's eye, I could still see the two Mars colonies, the one filled with reverent pioneers singing praises under alien stars, and the other, a soulless refugee of pride. The difference lay not in technology, but in the spirit animating those who wielded it. This is the message I leave behind. Humanity stands at a threshold, blessed with the keys to doors once locked. We can enter realms of possibility that our ancestors never imagined. But we must carry our spiritual compass with us. We must pray for our leaders, for the innovators, for the dreamers and the makers. We must pray that they remain humble servants of a higher good, remembering that all our knowledge and prowess come from a divine source that loves us beyond measure. As my life continued quietly, as grandchildren grew taller and wiser, as seasons passed over my small garden, I remained grateful for the extraordinary vision given to me. I was just one old woman, once known only to her family and neighbors. But now I understood that every voice matters. God could choose anyone, someone like me, to carry a message of hope, warning, and encouragement. And in doing so, He reminds us that we all have a part to play in shaping the future. The ordinary has become infused with the extraordinary. My days, once defined by apple-scented afternoons and grandchildren's laughter, now held a cosmic purpose. I had seen Jesus. I had witnessed possible futures. I had felt the warmth of divine love and seen the grave dangers of forgetting it. And I lived now, not just to enjoy my quiet retirement, but to share the truth that faith and progress must never be divorced from one another. In the end, I trust that God knows how this grand story unfolds. I rest in the assurance that every prayer, every humble plea for guidance, helps tilt the balance toward the world Jesus showed me. The one where love and innovation walk hand in hand, where no discovery stands apart from the Creator who made discovery possible. I know that no matter how small I feel, my testimony has a place. I pray that, in time, our collective choices reflect the grace I felt in that realm of radiant light and the immeasurable compassion in the eyes of Christ. I am Clara Dawson, grandmother, witness, and servant of this truth. I have walked the thin line between life and eternity. I have seen the crossroads where humanity stands, and I know, with certainty, that we must pray, love, and remember the one who gave us all these gifts, lest we lose our way in the brilliant but empty glow of our own creations.